Greetings and welcome to the China 100 Symposium. I'm Joan Brzezinski and I'm the Executive Director for the China Center in the Global Programs and Strategy Alliance here at the University of Minnesota. We're here to celebrate the centennial anniversary of the university's engagement with China. Over the last 9 months, our team has researched and examined the richness of this history through the accomplishments and contributions of our Chinese alumni, as well as the ongoing academic engagement of the university's faculty and students. The fruit of the university's many institutional, academic, and research partnerships is boundless. It's been exciting to delve into this history. Our research has uncovered many treasures, though through today's panels and discussions, we will look at the future relationship of our university and our state with China. But we'll begin not by looking forward, but briefly looking back, not quite where we started 100 years ago, but at the beginning of our modern-day relationship with China. Please enjoy this short video of the university's first delegation to China, led by former Board of Regents Chair Wendell Moore in 1979.
You're welcome, the guests from far away. Leading personnel and faculty from different universities and colleges in Changchun.
And other responsible persons. I am very happy to be here.
Professor Chang is giving lecture on mechanics. Professor Hamish is giving a lecture on physics. Professor Steer is giving lecture on program. In the atmosphere of mutual understanding and mutual benefit, the talk begins. A good beginning is half done. President Lu presents a valuable Chinese painting with his inscription and signature on it to the University of Minnesota.
Your delegation have to come to China.
The host also put on 2 badges for the guests, taking all these as the symbols of friendship and cooperation between the 2 universities. After conversation, they have picture taken. In the afternoon of the 8th September, the representatives of the University of Minnesota and the Zili University of Technology are signing the memorandum. At 3:30, with the friendship and the fruitful result of the visit, the delegation leaves Chang train for 15. Friends, give our best regards to the faculty and students of the University of Minnesota.
Good afternoon. Allow me to join Joan in welcoming you to the opening plenary of the China 100 Symposium. Truly a day to recognize and celebrate all of the many ties that bind the University of Minnesota and China. My name is Meredith McQuaid. I'm the Associate Vice President and Dean for International Programs here at the university. So many people have contributed to this history of which we are all a part, a history of which we should all be very proud, and one worth remembering every day as we celebrate today and move forward into our next 100 years. Before we get started, I wanted to share with you the news that today, April 22nd, 2014, has been declared Minnesota-China Education Exchange Day by Governor Dayton. In recognition of the 100 years of activity by the University of Minnesota in China, out of respect for our thousands and thousands of alumni, and in support of ongoing exchanges between the great state of Minnesota and the wonderful country of China. I think that we ought to both thank Governor Dayton for the recognition and thank one another for all of the energy and commitment that has made a proclamation like this possible. It is now my pleasure to introduce Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost, Karen Hanson. Provost Hanson began her post here at the university on February 1st, 2012, and has since that time become an important ally for the GPS Alliance, for the China Center, and for the university at large in globalizing teaching, learning, research, and engagement at the University of Minnesota. She received her Bachelor of Arts, summa cum laude, in philosophy and mathematics from the University of Minnesota in 1970. She went on to earn both her master's and doctoral degrees in philosophy from Harvard University in 1980. Please join me in welcoming Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost, Karen Hanson.
Thanks very much, Meredith. And that was a charming clip. It was wonderful to see the university sending its first delegation to China in 1979. As you saw, it was led by Regent Wenda Moore, who is with us today, I think. Yes? Yes? She will be. So tell her you've seen her film. Since then, of course, the university has welcomed to China many times and has also received several delegations from China. So today, the China 100 celebration is another day of welcome, but a particularly significant one. The proclamation is a wonderful thing. I just learned about that. And on behalf of President Eric Kaler and the university, I want to say that to the university community, to Minnesota, and especially to our Chinese alumni and future alumni, congratulations on this historic milestone. With a century of exchanges and academic achievements and collaborations behind us, and with many more years of cooperation to look forward to, we today honor the extraordinary progress we've made together, and we celebrate it. When the first Chinese student, Wen Ping Pan, enrolled at the university in 1914, perhaps we did not know just how extraordinary the relationship between our university and China would become. Today, we are honored to have Wen Ping Pan's grandchildren, Larry and Cynthia, with us. Are they? There they are. Thank you so much for coming. A lot has happened in these last 100 years. Our more than 10,000 Chinese alumni and the faculty and staff who've worked with them have been, as individuals, crucial to the broader effort to build and maintain institutional partnerships so that the university could develop programs and collaborate on research projects with China. Today, the university hosts more than 2,200 students and scholars from China each year, and our U of M students are, in greater numbers each year, studying in more than 15 study abroad and exchange programs in China. The university maintains, you saw the Memorandum of Understanding being signed. Today, the University of Minnesota maintains more than 80 Memoranda of Agreement, signed with some 30 Chinese universities as strategic partners. And our world-renowned faculty work with world-renowned Chinese researchers in a variety of contexts to address some of the world's most pressing problems. Many of our Chinese alumni have gone back to China and joined the workforce, taking up important positions in various Chinese and U.S. organizations in China. Some have made Minnesota their home, making contributions to established Minnesota companies such as 3M, Honeywell, and Medtronic. And of course, still others have journeyed beyond Minnesota and China, accomplishing great things in a wide array of fields and endeavors. As we begin the China 100 Symposium, we celebrate that past, but we also look to the future. The symposium will offer opportunities to engage on issues in agriculture and food safety, business, sustainability, public health, and medicine. I hope you'll make connections here with our expert speakers and with one another. We all have a common interest in continuation of a strong partnership between China and both the university and the state of Minnesota. Indeed, the University of Minnesota declares its commitment to developing more exchanges and partnership opportunities with China over the next 100 years. I know your presence here means that you are also committed to working to create more opportunities for our two great countries to work together for mutual benefit. Thank you very much for being here, and enjoy your day here at the China 100 Symposium.
Our next speaker is University of Minnesota Alumni Association and CEO, Lisa Lewis. Lisa heads the Alumni Association's nearly 60,000 member organization that fosters a lifelong spirit of belonging and pride by connecting alumni, students, and friends to the University of Minnesota and to one another. The university's connection with Chinese alumni, of course, is particularly strong, made possible with the support of Lisa and her team. Please join me in welcoming University of Minnesota Alumni Association President and CEO, Lisa Lewis.
Thank you, Meredith, for the opportunity to bring greetings on behalf of our 435,000 alumni around the world. This global community of graduates comes together through the Alumni Association to enrich the lives of alumni, to support student success, and to advance the University of Minnesota and the value of every U of M degree. And whether those alumni, after they graduate, remain in Minnesota, or they travel across the country and settle there, or they move around the world, maybe back to China, they have remained loyal to the university, and they serve as a vital link to the U in their communities. In fact, this university has a very long legacy of loyal alumni commitment and leadership. Last week, we just celebrated the grand reopening of Northrop, and you may not know this, but if it wasn't for the alumni and their loyalty and commitment many years ago, we wouldn't have Northrop Auditorium. They raised the money, they pledged, and they made sure and they kept their commitments to make sure we had Northrop. Back then, it took a lot of vision and leadership to understand the importance of that building to the University of Minnesota. And those alumni left a legacy for future generations. But they're not the only ones who made their mark on the university. Alumni like Wen Ping Pan made his mark on the university. He and his family had dreams and aspirations that led him to the University of Minnesota. And while he was here fulfilling his dreams, he paved the way for others to come behind him. Just 1 year later, in 1915, there were enough students, Chinese students, to start the China Students Club at the university. And it was founded to develop fellowship and camaraderie among Chinese students. So now here we are, 99 years later, and the alumni of China are still gathering together to create opportunities for each other and to unite in fellowship wherever they live. And as we celebrate 100 years of our first Chinese students, we also celebrate the success of our alumni in China. I understand that there are more than 10,000 Chinese students who have attended or been affiliated with some part of the university over the years. And many of them have gone on and gone back to China, and we now have 6 international chapters in China: Beijing, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Tianjin, and Xi'an. These chapters have hosted events that enrich the lives of alumni and advance our efforts to build a stronger global presence for the University of Minnesota in China. From helping recruit students, hosting interesting speakers and unique events, and serving as ambassadors for the U, to visiting students and scholars, the alumni in China create a sense of place within their local communities for all those affiliated with the University of Minnesota. And while the Alumni Association and the 6 chapters and others around the world, we have accomplished much, we have more opportunities in front of us. Our university president, Eric Kaler, likes the word ambition. And I know that the university will continue, through GPS Alliance and many others, to expand its alumni outreach abroad. And the alumni in China and around the world will pave the way and be there. If we think about the talent and the experience and the expertise of our 435,000 alumni around the world and their career accomplishments in business, engineering, agriculture, health, science, economics, and so many other disciplines, it's clear that this accomplished group can make a substantial impact on each other, on the University of Minnesota, on our state, our nation, and quite literally on the world. Together, we will continue that strong tradition of alumni loyalty and leadership that leaves a legacy for the next generation. So for all of those alumni who are with us today and have been volunteers for the U, and I know there's a number of you out there, I thank you for your leadership and service, and I look forward to working with you to recruit others, more of those 435,000 alumni, to join us and participate. And there's one great way to participate this fall. We have another 100th anniversary this year, not just our first Chinese students, but the 100th anniversary of homecoming. So for 100 years, alumni have been coming back to campus to celebrate and reconnect with friends and former classmates. Alumni are the torchbearers of institutional spirit, and homecoming brings the entire university community together. And we hope that our alumni from around the world will join us for this very special occasion with special events for our international alumni. And we will celebrate 100 years of homecoming at the same time as we continue to celebrate 100 years of the first Chinese student. Thank you.
Okay, now we have the opportunity to look at the last 100 years through the eyes of some of our alums. In 1914, that first Chinese student, Wen Ping Pan, arrived at the University of Minnesota, beginning a legacy for the university and his family. He graduated in 1918. He and his wife, Mei Hum, had one son, Harding Pan, and he also had 4 grandchildren, and 2 of them are with us today. So we're very honored to have Professor Larry Pan and Dr. Cynthia Pan with us, and I invite Larry Pan to come up and start our discussion about our alumni's history.
Well, thank you, Joan and the Kahlers, for such a warm reception today, and just an honor to represent the family and be able to tell a little bit about the story of Wen Ping Pan and his brother, Wen Wei. This is the, on the left you see the picture of the family dating back to 1898 with the two Pan brothers being on the right. And the family's history is a bit unusual because the elders of the family were converted to Christianity by Western missionaries in the 1850s, and so that brought English-speaking skills, it brought Western traditions, and it brought the value of education to the family, and those three things were really important in sending three of the four Pan children abroad. The father, Dr. C.C. Pan, was a physician and surgeon in Peking and in Shanghai, and the mother we knew as Mary, and Mary was a school teacher at Medhurst Methodist School for Girls in Shanghai. During the early years, the children were homeschooled by Mary, and then as they got older, the two boys attended St. John's University, an Episcopalian school in Shanghai, and both Wen Ping and Wen Wei also attended Tsinghua. Wen Ping studied chemistry at Tsinghua, as well as ran track, played tennis, and played soccer, and really both boys were accomplished athletes. On the left-hand picture, Wen Ping, this is a picture from the Far Eastern Olympics in 1913, where he won the decathlon. So arguably, he was China's top track athlete and Asia's top track athlete in 1913. He came to the university on a boxer rebellion, on a boxer indemnity scholarship in 1914. And the university was a very welcoming place for him, and he very quickly developed a social structure. And you can see here that he was a member of the Glee Club, the Cosmopolitan Club, the YMCA. Many of those organizations he had leadership roles. And the first Chinese student organization, he was a founding member and the first president of the Chinese student organization, where he also met my grandmother, Mei Hum, to his right. And he quickly recruited his brother, Wen Wei, who transferred from the University of Michigan, and Harding Quang. Let's see if I can get this up. Harding Quang in the second row, second from the left, from the University of Chicago. And the three of these men formed the core for the 1916 U of M soccer team. And they had a championship season. I think they had a one-loss season. His coach described my grandfather as one of the fastest and one of the best goal scorers in the country. And my grandfather was a lifelong Gopher fan. Okay, through the Bernie Bierman years, through Paul Giel years, through the Sandy Stevens years, and those of you that are too young to know this, we used to be good in football. And then in 1919, he left for Hibbing and took a job with the Oliver Mining Company, which was a division of U.S. Steel. And his probably biggest claim to fame in his 40-year career was the first decade when he was assigned to move the town of Hibbing. So the original town of Hibbing was found to be located on a very rich deposit of iron ore. And they had to move the town about 1 to 2 miles south of the old town of Hibbing. And my grandfather was the one that planned the street plans and planned the move. And of course, this meant there were a lot of angry people that were not happy with being displaced. And so he handled all of those complaints. And when kind of learned about that, I said, okay, well, that makes sense, because he was the most mild-mannered person you could ever meet. He was always respectful. He was never angry, and you could just see him just moving down the level of emotion of the residents of Hibbing. I thought I would kind of close my remarks here by just picking something out of the Hibbing Tribune from November 3rd of 1959, and this was on the day of his retirement. And this writer for the Tribune must have known him well or did his homework. And he says, to come to America was his dream, and when the opportunity presented itself, he hastened to the portals of the University of Minnesota. He was the first Chinese foreign student at this noted institution, and the challenges were great. But by his kindly manner, his deep understanding, his humble, unobtrusive attitude, he gained the respect of both his fellow colleagues and the competing athletic opponents. Coming to the Iron Range in 1919, he found a people that accepted him. No one asked about his color, creed, race, or nationality. He has worked and lived every day giving of himself, and those who have been fortunate enough to know him are rich beyond human value. For Mr. Pan, life has been a mission. His host of associates will miss him, but his wealth of humor and his loyalty and devotion shall remain for all as a burning example of a real American. And so, in just kind of closing my remarks here, my grandmother always used to say very proudly that the Pan family had 5 consecutive generations of college graduates. We've added 1 generation after she died in 1995, so we're up to 6. And 3 of those generations involved the University of Minnesota. So my sister Cindy, my mom and dad are pictured on the right, met here at the university. That picture actually was an article from the Minneapolis Tribune that, believe it or not, Sid Hartman wrote about a Gopher football game. And as I understand it, Sid is still writing articles for the Minneapolis Star Trib. And so I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Pan family for this great recognition. I can't get my own children excited in family history, but I have the University of Minnesota. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And now moving forward a little bit in our continuum of history here, please join me in welcoming Mr. Weiming Lu. Weiming Lu, who grew up in a family of architects, received his master's degree in civil engineering from the University of Minnesota in 1954. From 1959 through 1971, he worked in city planning and urban and environmental design in Minneapolis and Dallas and St. Paul, to name a few, and was involved in many high-profile projects. Weiming has received many awards and has published several works in his field. I invite Weiming to the stage. To please everybody, welcome Weiming Lu.
Thank you, Joan. You haven't mentioned that how many Norwegian I met over the years. That from Olsen, Johnson, Peterson, Jameson, I almost felt that I'm a half Norwegian, ready to change my name to Weiming Sun or something. Well, I'm really honored to participate in this celebration of China 100, and really happy to share a bit of my personal experience with you and how it affected my life. I came to the U in '53 to pursue my graduate study per recommendation of my father's friend, Ling Shuming, who is a distinguished U alumni and a noted architect in China. I learned a great deal from my many fine teachers at the Civil Engineering, School of Architecture, Geography, Sociology, and ever grateful to every one of them. After finishing my graduate study at the U, the university sociology professor, Professor Kaplow, encouraged me to apply to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So I did, and luckily I won the scholarship and went there to pursue my graduate study in city planning. After graduating there, and with my background in architecture, civil engineering, and planning, I started working as a city planner and married Caroline, and who is a graduate of Macalester College, whom I met while I was in Minnesota. After 2 years of work, and with saving, my wife and I went to Europe to travel and observe the post-war planning and construction. And so while returning to Minneapolis to visit friends, I had the good luck of landing a job with this city of Minneapolis, where I led the plan for the downtown, the Southeast Minneapolis, a citywide design framework, and happy to see the Nicola Mall Skyway Orchestra Hall built, state historic preservation legislation passed, and a design exhibit at Walker Arts Center, and establishment of the Committee of Urban Environment by Mayor Fraser. As Dallas was looking for an urban designer, somehow they learned my work here, and so they recruited me. I went there to lead a new urban design program, fostering neighborhood conservation, establishment the Environmental Quality Committee, and creating an art district, and saving the Texas School Book Depository. Then respond to a surprise call from St. Paul. I was happy to return to Twin City and to lead the Lower Town Rejuvenation Program, which is a public-private partnership, as TPT called it in their new film called The Rise of a New Urban Village. Over the year, we attracted $1 billion investment there and restored the depot and extend light rail, so on and so forth. So we've been sharing our experience around the country, around the world, how we do public-private partnership, how do we build cities. So I just wrote a book titled The Tao of Urban Rejuvenation, Building Livable Creative Urban Village, which was published in English and Chinese. Over the year, I appreciate the opportunity to serve my alumni, alma maters in a number of ways as adjunct professor for the School of Architecture, a lecturer for the North-South Seminar at the Humphrey Institute, which was wonderful, and hosting hundreds of Humphrey Fellows around the world, and as advisor for the China Center, hosting many visiting planners, architects, educators from China, and as a member for the search committee for the head of the Asian Language and Literature Department, helped recruit a fine scholar to the U. For years, I enjoyed the intellectual exchange at the Institute of Advanced Study. Per their invitation, one year I spoke to them on the Sun-Sui Spirit in Chinese City and to the East Asian Library on the Beijing Olympic. Currently, I'm serving as an advisor to the Metropolitan Design Center of the College of Design. I have lectured at many universities, including Harvard, MIT, and UC at Berkeley, Seoul, and Tsinghua. I served as visiting professor at Tokyo University 1 year, and as MIT East Asia Planning Laboratory advisor, and spoken in many international conferences, including Union of International Architects Congress, Arts and Regeneration of Cities in London, UN's Urban Forums in Nanjing. Art has always been important to me. I appreciate the privilege serving on the National Endowment for the Arts and the Public Arts St. Paul for many years. Chinese calligraphy has been my lifetime interest, and I have exhibited my work and given lectures in China, Japan, and here, including the China National Art Academy. I am happy to see the U's art department's active art exchange with China, how they benefit students from both countries. I'm happy to co-host some of these visits from time to time. Professor Yam Nam Kim of the U, Artistic Director of Chamber Music Society of Minnesota, Pearl Berger, and I worked with Yo-Yo Ma for 6 years creating the Hun Chao, that is the Bridge of Soul concert of remembrance, reconciliation, commemorating the Asian Holocaust during World War II, and was premiered in St. Paul in 2001, a national broadcast by NPR on the International Peace Day, September 18 of the same year. US and China, with different culture, history, geography, background, aren't as easy to understand and relate to each other. As a bicultural person, I feel I should try to bridge the difference between the two. And serving locally as a Minnesota chapter of the U.S.-China Friendship Committee, St. Paul Changsha Sister City Committee, and Chinese Garden Society, and nationally is the vice chairman of the Committee 100 of the Chinese American for a number of years, worked with I.M. Pei, Tian Changling, and many others for the same purpose. I wrote a paper on seeking common ground while respecting difference during the Taiwan missile crisis, which was adopted by our committee and as a position paper presented to the leader in both countries. Serving as advisor for the National Committee for U.S.-China Relations, I helped to organize the first delegation of U.S. planner to visit China in '79. Since then, I've been involved in many exchanges, including serving as a planning advisor to the mayor of Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing Planning Institute, so on and so forth. I'm grateful to be an American by choice. I serve on the board of many organizations like Minneapolis Foundation, Citizen League, Twin City Public Television, Chinese American Association of Minnesota, and the National Organization of Chinese American, in helping Chinese American entering the mainstream of America. Finally, universities, through its multiple programs in shaping knowledge, creating dialogue, building bridges, and educating new generation of leaders in China and United States in confronting the global challenge. I'm most proud that you is a recipient of the 2009 Senator Paul Simons Award for Campus Internationalization, which you very much deserve. I wish my alma mater continued success in these activities in building a peaceful, prosperous, and equitable world in the next 100 years. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Ivy Chang, who is a 1970 graduate from the University School of Journalism. She's worked in public relations and owns PR International, which works in print, internet, and broadcast media. Her focus is corporate communications and community relations, and many others, actually, to name just a few of them. Ivy is a second-generation University of Minnesota alumna. Please welcome Ivy Chang.
Thank you very much. I'm Ivy Chang, and the reason I was at the university was because my father came here in 1948 to attend the university. He was accepted after he received his bachelor's degree at Tsinghua University in China, and that was about the time of the war, Second World War, and he could not continue his education any longer because colleges in China were closing. The colleges moved around in various cities in China, and we went from city to city, following where the education was going to. My mother also graduated from the University, the Tsinghua University, and then we had to, in 1948, when my father was accepted to the university, he came to Minnesota on the advice and help of a American soldier named, Wallace, I can't remember his name. Anyways, he was from western Minnesota. And he said, gee, I can help you get to the university if you want to continue your education. And my father thought, great, this will be great. So he was accepted at the university to get his master's in biochemistry. His bachelor's was in chemistry. He came here in 1948 and started, didn't have anybody that he knew here, and he did know English. They did teach English in the grade schools where he went because he went to a private elementary school. And so he at least knew English. He had to write English all the way through high school and in college. He was also an interpreter for the Tsinghua University where when they had American soldiers coming in and needed some interpretations, they would select my father as one of the interpreters. So he was here, and he thought that he would be able to get his master's in 2 years, and then his PhD another 1 or 2 years, and then he would return and join us in China. Well, of course, everything changed when in 1949 the communists took over China. My mother and I and my father's family then had to escape. My grandfather was a politician under Chiang Kai-shek in the Nationalist Party. So we had to leave or we'd have all been killed. And during that time, my grandfather went from city to city hiding so that the communists wouldn't find him. So in 1949, my uncle, who happened to be a pilot, flew us from Beijing to Shanghai. We took the big boats and went to live in Taipei, Taiwan. And you know, to this day, I cannot get on a cruise ship. I won't take a cruise because it reminds me of the big boats. So we stayed in Taiwan, and by now, in 1951, the Korean War started, and now the U.S. government wouldn't allow anybody who was from a communist country out of the U.S. So my father was stuck in the United States, and my mother and I could not come in, and we were in Taiwan. So my father decided that since he couldn't leave, he'd have to go to work. Well, he was very lucky that when he went into the biochemistry office, they told him there was a job available. And they said, now this is at General Mills, which at the time was a smaller company. And they told him, General Mills is just down a few miles from the St. Paul campus, and you just go and talk to them. So he went there, he talked to them in the morning, and was hired to work that afternoon. How times have changed. So then he worked for a while before now General Mills at that time was a smaller company. Finally, in about 2 years after he was there, the CEO of the company, whose name was Harry Bullis, heard about what was happening and said, well, we can't have an employee whose family's not here. We got to do something. So Harry Bullis went to Hubert Humphrey, who was at the time mayor of Minneapolis. And he said, okay, this is our situation here, and I would like you to go to the U.S. senators in Washington, D.C., and see what you can do about getting this family over here. So that's what happened. I don't know how much red tape they had to cut, who they talked to, but somewhere in the congressional records is a bill that said they would sponsor to have us come here. Now, in the meantime, Harry Bullis went to Taiwan, and I do remember meeting him. I was very young, but I do remember meeting him. And he wanted to make sure that we were there and that he could get the papers rolling so that my mother and I could come to the United States. Well, that happened in 1955. So I actually had been away from my father for 7 years and finally saw my father. So that was something that, and because he went to the university, he thought, well, okay, let's continue this. Now, on the screen is a picture that I took of my father with Walter Mondale in Hong Kong. And this was 6 months before my father died. We got invited, or at least I made this man invite us. A friend of mine had worked for Dorsey Whitney, and they opened a Hong Kong office. So I said to my father, get a hold of Alex. And, and I said, tell him that I want him to invite me. So he did. And my father said, oh, he did better than that. He invited us to the entire party at Dorsey Whitney because Walter Mondale will be here. So I took that picture about 6 months before my father died. And that's the only picture I really have that's of him. I had another photo that I could not get, but it's of my father when he first came to the United States. And he had a picture of himself taken, and what a difference. But so when I was applying for colleges, of course, my father says, well, you're going to the University of Minnesota. And I thought, really? Why? But that was okay. My mother had some different ideas, but my father said, oh, no, you're going to attend the university, and that was it. And I thought, well, what if I don't get accepted? He said, you'll get accepted. So, of course, I got accepted, and the first year, of course, like anybody else, I didn't know what I was going to major in. I thought, oh, so many choices. What am I going to do? Well, you know, and everybody knows who've ever gone to college, that your classes, of course you expect to learn in your classes. You know, that's what it's all about. You learn the academics. What you don't expect is that you're going to learn outside of those classes. That education perhaps is more valuable in the long run than some of your academics. Now, the university taught me that we live in this big world. We always need to look beyond ourselves. There's a big world out there. We need to be responsible to other people. We need to accommodate the viewpoints of others. We want to be always curious about what goes on because you have to learn lifelong. And one of the most important things is to find solutions to world issues, whatever that may be. Now, one of my, I have several memories of what went on, and because it was the 1960s, we know that the most important issue of the day was the Vietnam War. Now we baby boomers, and I'm towards the beginning of the baby boomers, increased the student population of all colleges and universities across the country. So I think at the time in Minneapolis, there were over 60,000 students just in Minneapolis campus. Now, I think at the time there were 3 or 4 campuses in Minnesota. I don't remember the exact number. So all the classes were pretty crowded. In one psychology class, I remember, it was held at the old Northrop Auditorium, and I'm sure that there were 500 people in my class, and we watched TV lectures. And a few weeks later, we were all discussing how, well, television could be kind of boring. The protests and demonstrations across the campuses or any open space around, especially Minneapolis, would be going on for many years. Okay? They were peaceful protests mainly. And I can remember what we learned at that time about the Vietnam War, and that most of the students and most of the staff at the university were against the war. Our slogans at the time were, and some of you may remember this, turn on, tune in, drop out, make love, not war. We shall overcome, and never trust anyone over 30. And of course, after we graduated, we didn't realize how fast 30 was going to come upon us. The peaceful protests were held at Morrill Hall, they were on the mall, they were on any open space on campus. Some of them were only maybe one person, some of them were hundreds of people. We demanded, as we baby boomers did, to express our views, that our classes would express those views. We participated in Moratorium Day in October of '69 when thousands of us marched down Washington Avenue. So those were lessons that you could never study in class. They do now, but back then you didn't study those types of lessons. We participated actually in the experience. Okay. Let's see, we made many friends on campus. I think a lot of us made many friends on campus, many of whom became lifelong friends. I do remember playing cards in, if anyone remembers, the Hole. It was the dark, dark basement in Kaufman Union, and you wouldn't recognize it from what it looks now. We all wondered when the temporary School of Mines building was going to become permanent. We wondered, we remember the building of the West Bank Bridge, okay? And we know that the university really helped us expand our minds. In the state, of course, many, many businesses knew about the university, and many of us were lucky to attend and be hired by these corporations, some of whom, of course, sponsor the university now. Let's see. Well, currently I operate my own business. I've worked for 3 large corporations in public relations and communications. I now operate my own business called PR International. In past years, it dealt with more public relations. In recent years, I've expanded the business to include international projects. Some of these projects are that the Chinese are trying to find North American oil and gas companies to invest in, and I am one of the people looking for these companies for them. Another is that we have a local project that will eventually go national. We are looking to collect old used electronics for recycling. This is, again, goes back to the 60s when we believed that we shouldn't use the natural resources and continue to recycle. And the final project I have is the working on international type conferences. And we have connections with PR agencies around the world. With my partner actually is in Dubai. And I hope that that will go very well too. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you will help the university along. And I think this China Center 100 is just a fabulous affair, and I hope it will last another 100 years.
Now let's welcome 1991 alumna Ms. Amy Xu. She received her BS and her MS in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science from the University of Minnesota and a law degree from William Mitchell. Amy has worked more than 20 years as an engineer and a lawyer, and her legal practice is in patent prosecution, licensing, acquisition, and litigation with a focus on China-U.S. cross-border IPR. Welcome, Amy.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks, Meredith, and everybody. Again, my name is Amy Xu. I graduated from University of Minnesota in 1991 with a bachelor degree of science and computer science. I choose the U because of my mother. And my father paved the road, say electrical engineer. My mom said University of Minnesota. There I am. So about 24 years ago, my mom came here. By the way, she's here in the audience. I'm very happy that she's here. About 24 years ago, my mom came to the U as a visiting professor in a youth exchange program and introduced me to the university. I transferred from Fudan University in Shanghai, started here in 1990 to start my senior year. And since then, I've been a great supporter of the U. My favorite memory of studying at the U is visiting my academic advisor's office. His name is Professor Jim Hoti. He's actually on the picture on the screen here. Professor Hoti guided me throughout my senior year and later graduate school while I was working and studying law. His favorite question to me is always, what is the leading trend in technology, and what can we do to better our life? In 1991, I started my professional career in the field of intellectual property laws, helping inventors and companies in the fields of technology and innovations. I currently work as a partner at the international law firm of Hamre, Schumer, Mueller, and Larson in downtown Minneapolis, providing legal services to companies doing business around the world, particularly focusing on U.S. and China. I have traveled frequently to China. As some of you have heard recently, I accepted the Chief Patent Counsel position at Alibaba Group in Hangzhou, China. For the next few years. My travel will continue, but this time I will travel back more often from China to the place I now call home, Minnesota. My gratitude today as alum can be summarized as, if not for, the courtesy of this phrase goes to my law school, if not for the University of Minnesota, I would not have this opportunity to receive my higher education. The U provided the foundation of my professional career, healthy lifestyle, and the love and care for the communities I love around us. I hope my future return to my motherland, China, will help to continue building a better and greater life through my work at the world's most innovative and energetic companies, Alibaba Group. I look forward to introducing my beloved, beautiful state of Minnesota and the University of Minnesota to many more friends in China. My journey at the U was a journey to build traits and character. The U taught me to be an independent thinker, to strive to discover things that would better our lives, and promote creation and innovation, and mostly to connect to the greater communities around us. The U taught me to be tenacious, hardworking, and never giving up. It taught me to appreciate life and to be thankful to those who helped me along the way. And you opened my eyes to do the same as to help the other people. Today, I'm very grateful to be able to represent hundreds of thousands of university alumni and to represent tens of thousands of Chinese alums in the past 100 years. I look forward to continue working with all of you into the next 100 years. Thank you.
Lastly, I'm going to welcome Wanling Qu. Wanling is a 2008 alumna of the Carlson School of Management's Human Resources and Industrial Relations program. She's also currently a PhD student in the College of Education and Human Development. She's the director of our university's office in Beijing. She has been an advocate of expanded academic, business, and cultural exchange between China and the United States since early 2000s. And when she was a director for the freshman program at the Cultural Exchange College of Sichuan International Studies and University. Wanling is passionate to develop deeper connections before the university, faculty, students, and alumni in China. She and classmates and her fellow alum will lead the university's engagement in China well into the future. Welcome, Wanling.
Thank you, Joan. I'm very honored to represent the more recent Chinese alumni. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wanling Qu. As Joan introduced, I graduated from the university and also I work for the university. And part of my work is to promote the university's international alumni networks. So here are the pictures. They were events hosted for our alumni in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, respectively. The top left picture was actually one of the China 100 themed events that I hosted for our alumni in the university's Beijing office not long ago, during which our alumni shared their experiences and memories about their time at the university. And every one of us acknowledged that studying at the university was life-changing. It changed our way of viewing ourselves and the world from one way or another. One of our alumni at the event recalled that in early days after arriving at the university, he was dismayed at the culture shock, and one of the staff members in his department gave him a warm hug and assured him that it's going to be fine tomorrow. That was a simple gesture of support that profoundly cheered him up and helped him move forward with the challenges that he was facing. Another alumnus shared his story on how the university helped identify his passion in charity work and cultivated him in both academically and professionally. And this alumnus right now is working for China Charity Information Center, a leading organization that supports all other Chinese charity organizations. And actually yesterday, I chatted with him through WeChat. And he is extending his greetings to all of you and his congratulations to this grand event. And I noticed that the common theme of our alumni's stories was the high academic quality at the university, which is deeply cherished by our alumni and myself as well. I have been inspired and urged all of the years in my professional life by two sentences: surprise me and show me how you can add value. Those two sentences were constantly told by my professor in a marketing class from Carlson School of Management Thank you, Professor. That will guide me through my entire life. And I chose the University of Minnesota because of the high ranking of human research programs. When I graduated, while I was still very proud about the program rankings, I found myself have learned a lot more than the credential. It truly changed my attitude towards a lot of elements of my life, such as work ethic, teamwork, multiculturalism, and global perspectives, etc. I know that I could really go on and on talking about my stories, also sharing my lovely alumni stories, but I know our time is up. So thank you all very much for listening.